kind of peer-reviewed exposure as has, you know, the biological understanding of XY versus XX.
Yeah, I think me and you have got enough grasp of the scientific method to now move the conversation forward.
So yeah, so that's good. So what we're saying is effectively, we agree on the fact that science is not an eternal truth, but that certain things are probabilistically more possible than others.
Yes, and that some observations we have no grounds to dispute. Would you agree with that? There's certain observations within science.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Right, and
so for instance, like the XY and XX.
Well, I mean, it's a bit more complicated than that because there's XXY and there's XYY.
No, but these are additions rather than replacements for mark.
Exactly. So they work within a certain paradigm.
Right.
So now let me lay out my case.
Yeah.
Because I'm the prosecutor in this discussion.
Now we are both prosecutors and we're both defendants.
Right. Well, so let me lay out.
We talked about the fact that we're going to bring both of the books.
Yes, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fine. So in terms of the standard, so I'm going to lay out my case. In terms of the standard that the Quran lays out for itself, it says in Surah 482, you probably know it off the top of your head. Yes. What does he say?
If it was from other than God, they would have found in it many inconsistencies.
Yeah, exactly. Many. Yeah, and I'll just read it in the translation that we've got here as well.
Yes.
So just to make sure that there's no dispute for 82. Do they not consider the Quran carefully?
Yes.
Had it been from other than Allah, they would surely have found therein many a contradiction. Now, many a contradiction can be internal contradictions, or it can be external contradictions. Agreed?
Yes.
So, Muslims have marshalled, and I accuse the dawah, those who are doing dawah, I accuse them of lying deliberately. Because they claim, and I'm going to demonstrate that it's false, that the Quran...
But when you say they, let's be clear here.
The da'i, the ones doing dawah.
Let's be very specific, because
people like Zakir Naik, people like Adnan Rashid, people like...
So you're talking
I've given you some examples. Shabir Ali.
But are you talking about Zakir Naik, or are you talking... Because you have to understand something. I think it's very important to realize that we don't all have the same view when it comes to this.
I agree.
So it's not... I don't think it's very clever to generalize.
Well, I tried to be specific. I did say the da'i, those doing dawah.
Some.
And I gave examples of the kind of people that I'm talking about.
That's why I just had to interrupt to make sure that kind of specificity was ensured.
Okay, so we've clarified that. So now, in terms of the argument.
You like that, eh?
Yeah, in terms of the argument. No, it's totally fine.
He said it's totally fine.
In terms of the argument. In terms of the argument.
Yes, sir.
Muslims make the argument that the Quran accurately describes embryology. That's what they say.
Yeah.
Now, I've qualified that. So when I say Muslims, I'm speaking about certain kinds of Muslims, like Adnan Rashid, like Zakir Naik, like Shabir Ali. Not every Muslim. I fully appreciate that.
Yeah.
So it is fair, therefore, for me to test that argument.
Of course.
Right. So when I look at the description in the Quran, and I'm going to read it to you, I'm going to ask you to just qualify for me what you think the stages are that are being described. So if we go to Surah 23:12.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. So 12 to 14, if you want to recite that while I'm getting out the English.
No, it's fine. You can just go ahead.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, but just before I do recite it, if you want me to, there are two It's not just 23 which talks about stages. There's 22 as well.
Yeah. I've got
Surah
that.
Al-Hajj.
I've got that.
Yeah. So what? Do you want me to go through all the stages?
No. I'm going to read it, and when you hear a stage, I want you to stop me, interrupt me, and say this is a stage. Is that fair? So that everyone can hear the case being made out. Right? So, and indeed we created man out of an extract of clay. Thereafter we made him as a nutfa, thank you, in a safe lodging. Then we made the nutfa into a cloth. Then into a clot. Then we made the clot into a little lump of flesh.
Yeah.
Then we made out of that little lump of flesh bones. Then we clothed the bones with flesh, and then we brought it forth as another creation.
Yeah.
So how many stages did you hear there?
In this part, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ سُلَالَةٍ مِنْ طِينٍ. So, number one, teen.
What, sorry?
So the clay or mud.
So clay, yep.
All right. And then you have ثُمَّ جَعَلْنَاهُ نُطْفَةً فِي قَرَارٍ مَكِينٍ. We made him into a nutfa in a safe lodging. So nutfa.
Nutfa is the same lodging, is the safe lodging.
ثم خلقنا النطفة علقة فخلقنا العلقة مضغة فخلقنا المضغة عظاما فكسونا العظام لحما ثم أنشأناه خلقا آخر فتبارك الله أحسن الخالقين.
So you hear 3 stages.
No. So no. You got. So let's go with nutfa.
Yeah.
We'll talk about embryology in particular, right? So if you have nutfa, then you have mudgha.
Which is?
Mudgha is a lump.
Yep.
And by the way, on this...
We're just going through the stages.
But I have to... No, I'm doing it, but you have to let me say what it is, yeah? In chapter 22, it says about mudgha.
Yep.
مخلقة وغير مخلقة. So it's partly formed and partly unformed.
Yeah.
And then so after mudgha you have alaqa, which is a claw, and then after alaqa you have idam, which is bones. Yeah. And then you have after that flesh.
Okay.
So
right.
5.
Now, again, just like the Muslim brother before him, without any prompting from me, no prompting from me at all, Muhammad said you have bones, then flesh.
Yeah.
So that's 2 Muslims independently, and Hijab's an experienced debater who said bones and then flesh.
That's right.
Now, guys, it is a simple fact of embryology, and you can all go and Google it right now. Bones do not. Now, notice the interruptions.
Guys, let him make his claim, please. Let him make his claim.
There we go. Bye, Mansour. Mansour, do you not think that Hijab's big enough to stick up for himself?
Yeah, we know
I don't think Hijab needs your help. But if you want to come into debate, stand there.
No, I can't.
Just stand here.
Can you continue? Why are you waffling? I'm going to correct it every now and then. Carry on.
Right. So, guys, I challenge you now to go away and research it yourself. No embryologist argues that bones become flesh. Not anyone that is respectable.
Okay.
Except Mansour. So, sadly, this is why I have to raise my voice. I didn't want to, but I'm going to have to. I'm going to have to raise my voice because of Mansour. It's a shame because me and Hijab were having a nice conversation. Until Mansour turned up. So I'm not, all you're doing is delaying the argument. I'm still going to say my point, Mansour. I'm waiting for him to show up. I'm waiting for him to show up.
Made your point.
I haven't finished my point. I haven't made my point.
Alright, guys, be quiet, please. Let him finish his point because we have nothing to hide here. We have nothing to hide here. Let him finish his point. He said there's no references. We're gonna explore that.
So the fact of the matter is, without any prompting from me, Hijab has said bones then flesh.
Yes.
And it is a fact, ladies and gentlemen, a fact that you can check for yourselves that bones and flesh grow together. JC, focus.
No, they don't.
Okay? They grow together. They grow at the same time.
Guys, calm down.
They grow at the same time.
Guys, calm down.
From the mesoderm.
Guys, calm down. Yes.
So when the Quran says that bones grow with flesh, it's wrong for 2 reasons.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Firstly, there is no ossification at this point. It's cartilage. It's not bone.
That's false.
Ossification comes later.
That's actually false.
Comes later. And it isn't that the bones grow independently from the flesh.
By the way,
they grow together. Why are you interrupting? They grow together, and this is why the Quran is wrong, because it stages it, and he admitted it.
Fine.
Bones then flesh. Your response?
Okay. He said there's no ossification. Ossification is when bone forms, and this is also referred to as osteogenesis, okay? He also said bones then flesh. Now let's be very clear. The word bones in Arabic is idam. Now the word in the ayah was idam. The word idam in the Arabic language includes cartilage, by the way. How do we know that? If you look at the Arabic lexicons, and I can give you the names of them if you like.
I'd like you to pull it up.
Yeah, it's Lisan al-Arab from Ibn Manzur.
Yeah, no, can you pull it up? Can we see it?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, let's pull it up.
So for example, I'll read it exactly as it says in the lexicon, right?
Yeah.
So basically this is what Ibn Manzur says in his lexicon.
Quoting the Arabic lexicon.
Well, so Al-Fayruz Abadi mentions. Al-Fayruz Abadi is another Arabic lexicon, okay? Al-Ghudruf, and this is, he died 817 Hijri.
Yeah.
Al-Ghudruf wal-Ghudruf kullu azmin. Guys, please, I'm quoting it. I'm quoting it by the word. So there's no one here gonna say, get me a reference. I'm quoting it. He says, Al-Ghudrufu kullu azmin rakhsin yu'kalu wa huwa marinul unfi wa نغض الكتف ورؤوس الأصنع. Yeah, and this is in, I'll tell you exactly where it is. It is in Fayruz Abadi's Qamus al-Muhit, volume 1, page 840. Any issues?
So yes, I have an issue.
Okay, no, let me finish.
Yeah, I'll let you finish, but I have an issue.
Now,
yes.
Now that we have established, have we not, with references, have we not, that al-ghudruf, which is cartilage, is bone and cartilage can be used synonymously. He said that ossification doesn't happen. That's absolutely absurd.
No, I didn't say that.
No, he did say at this point, he did say that.
He didn't say that.
He said,
No, he didn't say that.
No,
I heard him.
no, he's making scientific mistakes. He said there's no reference as well.
Okay.
All right, so
Let him make it.
excuse me. He said, guy, calm down, because he's saying that there's no reference. I've got a book called The Fundamentals of Human Embryology. Be quiet, please. The Fundamentals of Human Embryology.
Printed where, please?
Yeah, okay, I'll tell you. Page 148. This is a book that is used by biologists in their first or second year, and it's also a book that is used by medical students and others. It's a book called The Fundamentals of Human Embryology.
Okay. We'll look at it.
It might be Oxford University Press. I'm not going to give you like a full bibliography.
Okay,
now you're being a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, fair enough.
Now, page 148.
I'll give you that one.
All right, look, page 148. Listen to what it said. Soon after the cartilaginous models of the bones have been established, the myogenic cells, which have now become myoblasts, aggregate to form muscle masses on the ventral and dorsal aspects of the limbs. These muscle masses in the relevant compartments form the flexors and extensors of the joints. Rotator muscles are also formed so that flexors and pronatators are related and extenders are and supinators are related. Now this is very, very clear to me, and it's actually a reference. Let me just finish.
Okay.
No, please. Yeah. When somebody is a layman when it comes to science, and is a layman when it comes to philosophy, and is a layman when it comes to Islamic theology, and is a layman when it comes to the Arabic language, has the audacity to come and stand for, excuse me. Calm down. Has the audacity to come in front of, no, let me finish. Has the audacity to come in front of me, making two false claims, the first of which is that the Quran has said,
Hijab. Come on.
Let me finish.
Just going at this point.
He said it on the camera. He said it on the camera, and this is at the age of technology. He said ossification doesn't happen at this stage. That's false. That is false. Osteogenesis.
He didn't say that.
Well, we can rewind it.
Oh my God.
We can rewind it. Excuse me. Ossification does take place by the admission of the authorities, and that's what people are using in the universities all across this country. Number two.
No.
Number two. Excuse me. Let me finish. I gave you a reference.
Let him finish.
Number two.
Why when you're saying that to Mansour?
Number two.
Come on, you're going on too long, Hijab.
Let him talk though. This is not fair argument.
Now,
this is why we need to do it time. This is why we need to do it time.
Okay, no. Let me finish this point,
and then we'll do it.
Then you can do it time.
Okay.
But I'm just making one more point, and then you can say what you like.
Sure.
Number two. فَكَسَوْنَا الْعِظَامَ لَحْمًا is the only interpretation in the Quran that the fa is chronological or ta'qib, meaning is it chronological? No. There are two interpretations in the Islamic understanding. One of them is that it is chronological, and the other one is that it's not chronological. And Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, he takes the view that all of it happens in the first 40 days. And he mentions that in his sharh of the hadith of إِنَّ أَحَدَكُمْ لِيَكُونَ فِي بَطْنِ أُمِّهِ 40 يَوْمًا مُضْغَةً عَلَقَةً نطفة ثم يكون علقة بعد ذلك ثم يكون مضغة بعد ذلك. And then he says, and then because excuse me, hold on. This hadith says, and
Wait.
let me finish. Let me finish.
But you're not finishing though. You're just making a new point.
Let me finish. You need to hear all the data. Otherwise, you won't know what.
Listen. Let
me finish.
You're not finishing though.
Let me finish.
You're not finishing though.
Give me what?
You're not finishing though.
Let me finish.
Carry on.
There's another way of the hadith.
Oh, gosh.
here we go.
Another one.
Listen, please. Calm down, please. He said, there's another hadith, very important. ثم في ذلك مثل ذلك. This is very important. So he said that in the hadith of Muslim, and the hadith of a Sahih Muslim, it's في ذلك مثل ذلك, which means in that time, listen, it means in that time it will be like that. So because it said في ذلك مثل ذلك, the opinion of the Hanabila in the matter, the Hanbalis, it all happens in 40 days. Why is it there for that there's a difference of opinion among the fuqaha?
Wait, you're just making another point.
Please, man, stop. Stop. Let me say it.
Making another point. You're not finishing it.
Let me finish.
You're not finishing.
Let me finish.
You're not finishing.
You're
not finishing. But you're not finishing.
I'm gonna finish.
No, you're not though. You're just gonna make another point.
Let me finish. Look, that's why the fuqaha have differed, the jurists have differed as to when a woman can have an abortion. Some say 120 days, some say 40 days. The ones who say it all happens within 40 days base it on the hadith and the interpretation of the hadith of Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali and other Hanabila. Therefore, now
you're making another point.
Hijab, let me reply. In summary,
just making another point.
In summary, number one, the interpretation of chronology is not consensus. Number two, even if we say it is, it includes the cartilaginous models, and that is what, according to this book, which is an authority that all of the doctors are using, is actually happening. Ossification and mesogenesis are happening at the same time, and that means to say that the cartilaginous models are moving in the way that the Quran says. You have nowhere to go.
Okay, so now let me reply. So, okay, we're just going to change the battery. We're going to
let him go, please. Now I'm going to give him his time. No one interrupt him. Please.
Tell that to Mansour.
You told him to come.
Please, everybody, make sure that you don't interrupt him, because whatever he says is going to be refuted, and then we're going to move on to the Bible, where he's going to have nowhere to run.
Okay, so guys, I listened carefully to the book that he quoted. Okay. And this is why I didn't want him to go on making point after point after point after point, so that we could address all the points. This is how you construct a fake miracle. You blind people with words. It's a rhetorical device called sophism. It's just sophistry. You bring out lots and lots of things. People can't grasp all the points that you're making, and then because they can't process all the information, they just accept the summary. And this is a tactic that Hijab has just demonstrated perfectly. Notice the interruption. Notice the interruption. So, ladies and gentlemen, I listened to the quote from the book that he quoted, and what I heard was that bones and flesh grow together. But if you remembered, when I asked Hijab to name the stages, he said, and you'll see the flashback on our picture on Soko Films, he said that bones came before flesh. He did. That's what he said. Yes. So he said the bones came before flesh, and then he quoted a book that said exactly the opposite. And he thought that I wouldn't notice. And he thought that I wouldn't notice.
Tactic.
But I did notice, because I have examined this sophistry before, and I understand its rudimentary tactic. The idea is to blind you with lots of big sounding words. Let me just clarify. Let me just clarify.
Clarify, Bob.
In another part of the Quran, so we read 23, 12 to 14.
We did.
But in Surah 2, ayah 259, It also says exactly the same. It's towards the end of the verse. If
Yeah,
you're
no,
going to
no.
recite it.
There's two qira'ats in that one.
Yeah.
ثم ننشزها عظمة and ثم ننشرها عظمة.
Right. Okay. Let me give the English.
But you won't get what both qira'ats in English.
Let me give the English, bro. Yeah.
So that's why you need
I am
somebody
still
who
making
knows.
my point, Hijab.
It's fine, bro. You can
Hijab,
take your
I'm
time.
still making my point.
Take your time, please.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Nothing
in
to hide
Surah 2:259, it reads.
Yeah, please.
Because if I get to it.
Do you want me to help you out with that?
No, I can find it. Thank you. It's just a case of.
It's not about embryology, you know that.
He said. Now notice, he said it's not about embryology.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's actually look at whether it talks about embryology.
Okay, yeah.
It says this.
That's the same, Bob.
And thus we have made of you a sign for the people. Look at the bones, how we bring them together and clothe them with flesh. When this was clearly shown to him, he said, I know that Allah is able to do all things.
you read the
No,
verse
don't
before?
interrupt. You insisted that I didn't interrupt. I'm going to say everything I've got to say. You got to listen. So the fact of the matter is, in two places, the Quran says bones, then flesh. Hijab said bones, then flesh, and then quoted a book that said flesh and bones grow together. That's what he did, and he hoped you wouldn't notice. Now he also talked about ossification. He also talked about ossification. The reality is, unless Hijab wants to say that he is an embryologist, it is clear from every work of embryology that bones are not immediately ossified. They begin as cartilage. The Quran does not mention cartilage. He said, have you got a problem with that, when he quoted the lexicon? And I said, yes, I do. But he insisted that he finish all of his many points. Are you honestly telling me that Allah doesn't have a word for cartilage when he wants to talk about cartilage, and he doesn't have a word for bones when he wants to talk about bones? No, you're going to listen. He's losing his patience now. He wants. Oh, and look at the interruption.
He was interrupting you. He was interrupting.